We can roll tape. And good evening. We are back in open session. Tonight we will be interviewing candidates for the Board of Education seat that was vacated by Mr. Kevin McAvoy's resignation a couple of weeks ago. First we have Barbara Reese, who is here as one of our candidates. And I guess I will kick off with one question. Probably, I guess, kind of an easy question, but one that we've extracted a bit from your background. Tell us what the interest is in the Board of Education.
Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it, to members of the board and to the superintendent and to the board secretary and all the dignitaries that are here today. I'm a East Brunswick resident for 12 years. My children attend East Brunswick schools, so my first passion for education, though, even precedes that. I have a background in education. I have a master's in childhood education, and it is my hope and desire always to volunteer and to volunteer for our schools to make things better. That's really my main reason for doing this. My passion for helping kids. I love when kids learn something new, and part of what brought me to East Brunswick in the first place is the school system. So that's just from my heart why I'm coming for the board, interested in being involved in the board activities. I'm excited by the opportunity to provide enriching and positive experiences for the kids. So if you look at some of my experience from my resume, a lot of it is education related. For example, I became very involved with the PTA, and I'll go into that further as time goes by. But basically, that a core of my being is in being involved in education of kids and making things better for the children of East Brunswick.
Great, thank you. Any questions, Mrs. Becker?
Good evening again, Barbara. Nice to meet you. I was a PTA president right before I came on the board, and I know what a good springboard it was. But I think the hardest thing for me was, as a PTA president, you're so hands-on, and you get to bring in programs, and you get to come up with great ideas for fundraising, and you're really affecting the everyday life of the kids in the school, and it's wonderful, right? What was hard for me as a board member is learning that the board is the complete opposite. We are hands-off in that sense. We are a policy-making group, and we make sure we don't run the district. We make sure it's run well. We have people in place, for instance, to bring in programs. I had noticed in one of the answers to your questions that you had talked about your passion for new programs and enriching the life of the kids and fundraising ideas. Are you comfortable taking on a role where you will not be doing that in a hands-on way? We have people who bring the programs to us. We certainly can suggest and recommend, but we don't get involved in fundraising. So are you looking to make that leap from hands-on to not?
Well, it's a good question. I did this once before. I was the president of the Moms Club here in East Brunswick, which is an organization now that's been around for 10 years.
Yeah,
and as my kids grew older, I also took a more of a supervisory stance. I became a coordinator, which means that I supervised different chapters within the Middlesex County. So it's the next logical step. My kids are getting older. My son Robbie's in 6th grade. My daughter is in her last year at Frost. So I'm coming to the end of my term as president. So for me, it was an opportunity to expand my abilities to help in the district. And I felt that this was a broader venue to do that.
I'm going to expand off your question, if I might. You mentioned your tenure as president is going to be ending. Mm-hmm. We would be appointing, I think, in 2 weeks for the next. Are you okay with stepping aside then, and I'm sure you have a vice president, and just kind of shifting gears completely?
I am willing to do that. Obviously, there'd be a transition where I would help her, but yes, I'm willing to do that if that is called for. And just to add, also to the fact of being on kind of on a committee, and so I'm familiar with the committees in the East Brunswick because I've served on several committees here. If you've seen in my packet, there have been wonderful experiences. I've been on the East Brunswick Board of Ed Community Advisory Committee. I mean, that's been a wonderful experience, a learning experience, and they do come up with innovative ideas, and they do make wonderful suggestions that really make changes. And in fact, they're bringing in, as you well know, high school students to help the younger students in ways that really is a cost savings to us as a district, because you have volunteer help. And for example, in Hammersholt, my son benefited from having high school students coming in, and they have a program there, as you know, that helps tutor the kids and spend time with them. So I understand the two sides of the coin, but I feel that this is an opportunity and an honor to serve, and I would welcome to work together with the board to do that.
Mrs. Shaw?
I was just going to, when you mentioned that you worked on the Community Programs Advisory Board, Committee, I should say, that's one of our committees. Did you mention that you served on other
The
board
Board of
committees as
Education
well?
Calendar Committee, I was asked to serve on that as well.
Okay.
So that gave me a good view of
Where
things.
else besides community programs do you see yourself being able to add the most in terms of our committee structure?
I feel that I could help in technology. I have an interest in coding. That's an area that I can, further develop with another question, but that's something that we've been working on as a PTA at Frost. And we brought in a class through PTA sponsored with help from the district to make it possible for kids in elementary school here in East Brunswick to do some after-school enrichment with coding, which I thought would be a value-added product for us to bring to school. And I'm interested in, again, I'm new to the board. I'm open. I know buildings and grounds is another area that I have an interest in. But I would serve where I was needed. That's really, I'm open. And I'm excited by any opportunity to serve on the board.
You kind of answered my question, because I obviously served with you on community programs, and Barbara was the one who helped us to bring enrichment programs. She's actually been one of our very good members, Kurt, right? Where she has given Scott some ideas that they have run with. And I know that you did take it from community programs to Frost, because I was going to ask you about the coding, where you got the idea for that.
Oh, I have more to say about that.
I'm sorry?
I could
No,
talk
I'm
more about
interested
that.
because we do pride ourselves on being very cutting edge, and coding really seems to be the next, and I am the non-technology person admittedly here, but coding seems to be our next big thing. So what prompted that?
Well, what happened was that I've been reading a lot about coding. First of all, it started really as an interest with bringing it to the elementary schools. I've been seeing it in some other school districts. Edison, for example, starts coding in kindergarten as part of their coursework. So, and my son had an interest in that area, so I started investigating that. And basically, it's the logical thinking skills that I feel are important, and the step-by-step analytical skills that you get developed from the coding. And they make it into games. So the kids at an early age can really access that part of their brain that they're not really maybe asked to all the time. And so there's a program called Scratch. And so they actually use building blocks on the computer to make a sequence. And then they use the Legos to also do robots, make robots out of them. So it's fun. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm memorizing something. It's hands-on, it's interesting, it's active. And you actually can do this with Minecraft as well, which some of us parents aren't so thrilled that our kids are playing all the time. But that's the idea, is turning something that they like into an educational experience. So that's what I liked about it. And I just feel that and I wrote in my piece, and I don't want to repeat a lot that I said in the piece, but it bears repeating, is that there are going to be 1 million computing jobs in the year 2024. And right now in Silicon Valley, they can't fill all the jobs. and the unemployment rates are high in the Northeast. And so eventually those coding jobs will come here, and I want East Brunswick students to fill them. So that was my motivation.
Mrs. Shaw?
How would you familiarize yourself with the programs that we offer already? For example, your children are still no older than the middle school. We have a lot of offerings in, Churchill and in the high school. How will you go about trying to familiarize yourself with some of the programs that are currently provided to our kids?
Well, if elected to the board, or I'm sorry, if chosen for the board, I definitely am a quick study. I definitely would speak with other PTA parents and moms. I already have been looking through all the catalogs. I look ahead. So I've already been looking at the high school elective courses and things like that. So I definitely am just interested in this, and I do this as my interest is learning more about the schools, and I would make it my business to know that that's what I do. I'm nervous today. I have to say this is an experience interviewing in front of so many people, but it's normal, and I think that you understand that. But I just really came because I feel a lot for this job, and I feel that I would be a person that you could work with and feel comfortable with, and would do the right thing for the kids of East Brunswick.
Dr. Cohen, I think you had your hand up.
I had actually two questions, but I'll just do one. As a member of a community where education is obviously very important, that is still the number one reason people move here, as you mentioned, Board of Education members often get recognized immediately in a crowd when you're in PTA meetings or when you're in back-to-school nights, and it's not uncommon for people to come up to you and start talking to you about problems that they feel need to be resolved, or issues with teachers or issues with other students. How do you envision handling that barrage of questioning that invariably would come your way?
Well, I am a little bit used to it because I I volunteer for EBTV, so I do get approached in the supermarket a lot. And they do get asked a lot of questions which are out of my purview, so I am kind of used to that. But yes, I would be able to handle that and speak in a calm manner and friendly manner, and take in the information and see what I could do if it's within my area to help them. But no, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable with that.
The other question that I had, and it's completely unrelated to that, it's always sort of a mixed bag that the role of a Board of Education is to make sure that we provide the best education in the safest environment possible, and yet we also want our children to feel that they can go out and explore and make mistakes. And how do you reconcile the need to keep a safe environment and yet at the same time allow kids to be able to free think, explore, and try to reconcile those two almost opposite approaches?
I don't feel it's opposite. I think being free makes you feel, being safe makes you feel free. I know, for example, at Frost, I feel very safe. So within the confines of the school, we have a security guard, we have certain procedures in place, and I feel that within, actually Frost, besides my house, is the safest place that I feel my kids are at. So I feel that the board and the district is doing a very good job in this area. And I'm a pretty careful mom, so if I feel safe at Frost, it's safe.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Phillips?
Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
I have, as Lori mentioned, served with you on community programs. I enjoyed your input in the community programs. I want to thank you for coming here because it takes a lot to have a desire to join the Board of Education. It's a lot of long hours. It's a good commitment, and it's a great commitment. I'd like to ask you, not a technical question, but a personal question. Give me one interpersonal skill that would make you a good board member.
Well, I think that I work well with others. I like to collaborate. I like to listen. I like to get all the information first before I make a decision. So, for example, if there is an issue that needs to be discussed, I try to find out what's been done before. I try to find out what has been thought to be the right solution, and then I investigate further what are some other solutions, and then I like to work with people and discuss that. So I enjoy working in a group. This for me, that would be one of the best parts of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Chu?
We served on the Human Relations Council together, and one of the things I value about this community is the diversity of the community and how we embrace that. And you addressed that in some of your responses here in terms of, moving to a global environment. What do you think we can further do to embrace the diversity of our student and parent population and further encourage this full participation?
Well, firstly, I think that we already do a good portion of that at the elementary school level. I thank the district because it definitely, we have assemblies that reach out to the students. I think that's very important at an early age to introduce cultural events to the kids. For example, like we do Traditions of India, we have a dance program, a Dance China, so I value that. Similar to what we did in the Human Relations Council with the Multicultural Day. So we do that also International Day. So what could we do further is perhaps bring it on a more district level and have district-wide events that feature these different cultural traditions. And I also like the idea of bringing in, I know the board is considering Mandarin. I think that's an important language for people to have the choice to learn. It's an important language in business and in culture. And any opportunity where we can have kids learning about each other. And I think that's the first step. And, when you go to eat somebody else's dinner or you talk to somebody and you learn their language and you learn some words and phrases, it makes a big difference. So more of the things that we have been doing here in East Brunswick. I have to say that's one of the reasons why I like living in East Brunswick, because my kids get to meet people of all different cultures, kids of all different cultures, and they feel comfortable with each other.
It's funny, you mentioned when you were recognized in the supermarket through EBTV. I was recognized once and told that I was shorter in person than I appeared on television. Made a friend for life there.
And usually Barbara's on the asking side, and because of your role on EBTV, so it's reversed right now.
What are we doing well, and what could we improve as a district from your perspective?
Well, I feel overall the district is it was actually a website called NerdWallet, and we got a very good rating as being the best school district for your buck in New Jersey, the 11th in the whole state, based on standardized test scores, college readiness, and class size. So, for example, some school districts are excellent, but the taxes are out of sight and the houses are too expensive. But East Brunswick is one of the few townships in New Jersey left that actually provide a top-notch education at an affordable price. So that's, I think, an amazing feat with the kinds of problems that happen where you loss of funding from the state and from the federal government, that we're doing that. And that's one thing that I think the school does well. I think that the just everything, my personal experience has been excellent. The guidance department is excellent. The enrichment programs are excellent. The programs that deal with language arts are fabulous. They have specific people just to help with enrichment in language art. I mean, there are many levels of what the school does very well. And I'm, as a parent and as an educator, I'm very pleased with East Brunswick schools. I'm sure I'm not even covering all the things I'm pleased with. So, and what to do better, right? I think that, there's always room to do better. Dr. Valesky speaks about, this is the year of innovation and the different ways to improve things. And I always feel it's worth looking at what we're doing and seeing how we can do it better. Even at the PTA level, even at Frost School, we're always looking at how we run programs to see how we can run them leaner, how we can save resources, how we get things done faster, which I'm sure you do on a regular basis. So for me, before I would make suggestions of what to improve, I'd want to see how everything's done, listen, and then make recommendations based on that.
Other questions? Mrs. Howard?
On that same note, have you ever seen programs at other schools, or you go, why don't we do that here? Has anything like that ever come to your mind?
The coding, that was the number one, because I felt that it's such an opportunity. I believe education is the great equalizer. And my father was born in Argentina. He came here in the 50s. He was a soccer player, and soccer was not popular in the 50s in the United States. And he didn't even understand half the homework I was doing because it was in different language, and it was hard for him, even then when I was older. But my mom is a retired teacher. She taught for 27 years. And so I definitely see education as the great equalizer. So anytime I see a program in another school, I'm always watching. So that was the big one. We have the language. I mean, I wish that the World Language Program would come back. That's definitely something that I hear from a lot of parents. And I myself, I enrolled, but we had the enrichment Spanish, and so I started them in the lower grades with that. But those two areas, I think, would be areas that I would love to see us, add to our, arsenal of programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone? Any additional questions? Good. Mrs. Reese, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any-
Am I
anything
allowed
else?
to say anything
Absolutely.
at the end? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And give you as much time as you'd like.
No, I appreciate it. I just basically wanted to let you know that I'm very honored to be here. I look at the job very seriously. I would give it my full attention. It would be a top priority for me. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to speak to you. And I thank you for the time that you spend here. And I have a full respect and understanding for the time and effort that you put in. And our kids thank you. Sometimes you wonder, why do people run for particular offices? And I'm not running because of any other reason, is that I would like to make things better for the students in East Brunswick. And I think the board is great that it has members who have kids of all different ages. And I think it does add to a board that you have different perspective, and that some of the kids, some of the board members have kids that are currently enrolled in the school, some have kids that have graduated, and it gives a good overview of the whole process. And I definitely would love the opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On that, we will take a short recess. All right, and we are back. We have Adam Neary here as a second candidate this evening to interview for the open board seat. So, Mr. Neary, I'll start by asking you the same question, which is, tell us about yourself and why the interest in the Board of Education.
Well, I've been a resident of East Brunswick since 1981. I went through the school system K through 12, graduated in 1994. With quick math, that makes me 40 in September, so it's a big milestone coming up. I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 1998, moved back to East Brunswick, lived with my parents for a couple more years, bought my own condo in 2003, and have been a resident pretty much since 1981. And in high school, I was mostly involved with student council, drama club, environmental club, and from those experiences, it really gave me a great opening for college and understanding what it's like to be an effective student. And because of my roots in this town and being a proud graduate of East Brunswick High School, I wanted to play an active role in this community. And many of you know that I ran for council 2 years ago. I never thought in my wildest dreams I would run for council in this town. I had a good time doing it. While I wasn't successful, I gained a lot of experience out of it, and it was a lot of fun, really was. My running mates and I still keep in touch. I learned a lot about this town, and it made this town even more special. And soon after the election, everybody was asking me, "You're going to run again? You're going to run again?" And I made the decision pretty much on the monorail in Walt Disney World that I wasn't going to take another shot at it. I had a good time doing it the first time, but I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this community. And then came back in January when this board held the public meeting in Hammershall. And I was so excited to see the interaction between the community, the board, the educators, all trying to build a better and a stronger community. And it piqued my interest again. And when the opening presented itself, I chose to jump and take an opportunity, because I know that if I don't do it now, I'll probably regret it in the future. So let's just take a shot now and be part of this team.
Thank you. Questions? Mrs. Becker?
Good evening, Adam. Thank you for throwing your hat in the ring for this position. It's clear from your resume and the answers to your questions that you have a passion for volunteerism and you believe in giving back. And obviously, this is a volunteer job. I know that you went through the school district, and there's a lot to be said for someone who walked the halls of the East Brunswick School District every day. You yourself don't have children. Do you feel that this would put you at a disadvantage?
No, I don't. I'll tell you why. First of all, as I said, being a student, I've walked the halls, to your point. And I'm a homeowner. I've been a homeowner in this town for 13, almost 14 years. And as such, I have an invested interest in having my value of my property be as valuable as possible. And schools, having a good school district and a good town, make sure that your property values are the best. And because of being a homeowner, being part of the school board will make sure the value is maintained. And second of all, I may not have children, but I have a lot of friends and family members that do have children in the system. And it's important for me to make sure they have the same educational experience, like myself and a few of us who are up here on the dais who went through the school system. And it's just important to me that the schools continue that same level of professionalism and the same level of quality of schools that I went through, and that I want these kids to have that same experience that we all went through.
Thank you.
Mrs. Shaw?
We, of course, are familiar with the fact that you ran for town council as a member of a political party, and you understand that it is the role of a Board of Education to be nonpartisan. Do you believe that your activities within a particular party presents any challenges for you as a member of the Board of Ed?
No, not at all. I am involved with many community organizations. We talked about it, specifically the Playhouse 22. We have Republicans, Democrats, Independents on that board. And once I set foot in that theater, that's a nonpartisan theater. We don't get involved in politics. And I do that with a lot of other community organizations, whether it's the Charitable Foundation, when I was with the Youth Council as an advisor. There is no role of politics in those organizations. And I don't think there should be any role of partisan politics on this board either. And I will check my partisan identification at the door every single day, because I pride myself on being a collaborator. I like working together. I like working across quote-unquote ideological views to make sure that we all try to find consensus on what serves the best of the community.
Mrs. Lax?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that, like you, walk the halls. And the nice thing is that things are getting better and better than what we had. You have an incredibly impressive resume, and I love all the things that you've done. And I grew up with Playhouse 22 as well, so I'm sure you were there back in the old days before they moved, and I think it's wonderful what you're doing. My question to you is, have you done anything more, and I did actually meet you at the,
At Hammersholt, yep.
at Hammersholt, which was wonderful, and I think that's terrific that as a community member you came out and supported us. Have you done anything else, or are there any other education issues or volunteerism that you've done in the, I guess, educational realm?
I wouldn't call it educational realm, but for almost 8 or 9 years, I was an advisor with the Youth Council, East Brunswick under Karen Fear.
Yep.
And I worked with a lot of the high school students, especially when they were doing the variety show at the old Playhouse. We went on trips to New York, on the ski trips, and I felt that I was a few years out of college, I was mentoring them. And some of them I've actually kept in touch with and run into in random spots of the world. And I feel that serving in that role, I had the opportunity to mentor them and kind of show them the ropes. And I take that experience really close to my heart.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great group.
Yeah, I still work with them through the Playhouse, but not as much as I used to.
Dr. Cohen?
In light of a lot of the work that you do right now, you get an opportunity to see a lot of districts that are within this county. And having gone to that strategic planning meeting, which was done in January that you referenced, can you identify any specific area that you think we should be concentrating on here in East Brunswick that would move the school system further ahead and increase our reputation, which we know is already good, but we're always looking to move that a little further?
I think that it goes with anything we do is just continuing building bridges within the community and looking at the diverse community we have and the different organizations. I mean, we're a town of 34, 35 different houses of worship. We're a town with different neighborhoods and stuff. And I think an important part is just continually being in the community, telling the residents what kind of activities the school board is doing and the schools are doing and what kind of role they play within the community. It's just always a good stepping stone. And I've long supported building bridges within the community, and I think that's probably the best step that we can all take as a community. And even if I don't get selected for the board, I would still like to play an active role in helping building those bridges.
On that thought, you spend a lot of time in the public and interacting with them regularly. As a board member, you're often, especially in a town that values education so highly, you're often recognized and picked out to, bring up a topic that a parent or a student may have, whether that be something to do with their own student, an interaction with a teacher. How do you see your role as a board member involved in that type of interaction compared to what you're doing right now?
I think board members have to be very cautious on getting involved with very specific issues. I mean, this board has a professional staff that handles disputes or issues between students. I mean, we can serve as a liaison and making those phone calls to say, okay, we're here to open the door, but I don't think, I would be very cautious and kind of getting involved with a decision, especially if it's a discipline issue. And I would suspect that if there's a student that's having a problem that's discipline-based, we should be very cautious in getting involved with the specific details, but at least opening that door, whether it's through the superintendent's office, and say, this is the process you need to move forward with when there's a problem, instead of being the problem solver specifically, but at least opening the door.
Great, thanks, Adam.
Mr. Flipsack?
Adam, thank you for coming. I admire your desire to be on the Board of Education. There's a lot of long hours, and I know you're sure you probably do well with that. Not a technical question, but just an interpersonal question. What would one quality that would make you a good board member?
I have a really good way of seeing the issues from a real macro level, and then focusing on the micro levels. I tend to see the big picture, and then seeing how the little parts of the picture are created, the mosaic, would you say? And I think given the fact that I have that ability, I can see the issues with a clear vision, and looking at the little nuances of it gives me that perspective that I think that I really consider a good attribute that I have.
Thank you.
question that Dr. Cohen's questioning had led to. You're the chief of staff of an assembly, a member of the assembly. What would you do if our position on something is at odds with that individual's office?
Well, like many of you, working for Assemblywoman Pinkin is a job. It's my day job. And I know how to separate those two worlds very clearly. I've had issues in the past that I've had conflicts with people I'm very close to, people that I've worked for in the past. And given the fact that that is my day job, that's what I pay the mortgage, put the food on the table. But as soon as I leave that office, I will be representative of this board. And if it's something that, again, being a collaborator, someone who likes working together, it's something that I think we could work together on. If it's my Assemblywoman has one position and we as a board have another position, if I can see where we can find a way to work together, I would try to pursue it. If not, it's Nancy's very clear and understanding that there are two worlds, and that conflict would not jeopardize whether it's my position on the board or my employment. And it's something that I feel pretty comfortable that I can check that at the door, that problem.
Mrs. Becker.
Adam, you've been involved in your townhouse or your home
Condominium
association.
Yes.
So I can remember from going to those association meetings, people don't come out to tell you what a great job you're doing and how awesome it is to live there. And boy, do they love everybody on the association executive board.
I don't know what association you're talking about. Mine is just like that. Everybody
Okay,
loves it.
well, this is going to come as a big shock to you, but people come out when they're upset about something, when they're angry about something. So going along with something that Brad had asked, I liked your answer about not getting involved in specific family, student problems, teacher problems. How do you deal with the person who corners you in ShopRite and is just raving because they're not coming up to you and say, great job, just keep doing it, man?
I joke because last year was a real challenging year for my association. I mean, some of you guys have served on condo boards. They're not easy jobs. They're thankless jobs in many points. We had, just real quick, we had an issue. Our insurance premium was canceled 2 days before New Year's, and I had 2 days to find an insurance policy, and the new premium went from $58,000 to $138,000 one day, over one night. We didn't budget for that. So we had to do a special assessment. Then came the snow of last year, and then at one point in the summer, the pavement down at the bottom of the property was sinking about 6 inches, and by the time we got to it, it was a 26-foot hole. So last year was a challenging year, and we've had some real tough board meetings, and we've had some tough interactions with constituents, and I kept on telling my fellow board members that the truth is always the most important thing. You be honest. You be transparent with all the information you have. And we did that with our association. I went through a whole PowerPoint presentation going point by point on what caused our problems, because we had a room probably filled to the top, about this size, for people just wanting to wring our necks. But we went step by step, and it was a 3-hour meeting. And by the end of the meeting, there were people volunteering to be on the board. We got a lot of accolades, and people were very happy with that response because I believed in the truth. I didn't hide anything. And I said we might have been better with doing snow removal. As a result, we fired our snow removal company and brought in a new company that we felt more comfortable with. So when people corner me at ShopRite, which they actually did, since I'm right down the street from it, I was honest with them because I'm not hiding anything. I wasn't hiding anything. People claim out there that being on a condo board, you make a lot of money, you have free association dues. It doesn't work that way. It's just like this. It's a volunteer position. And I felt very comfortable at the end of that meeting. And admittedly, going to that meeting I was a little stressed out by it. I felt very comfortable at the meeting that we did the right thing. And our board came together much closer after that. And we had a good team, but it was much closer now than it's been before that meeting.
Thank you.
What else? Mrs. Howard?
Yeah, hi, Adam. Wanting to serve on the board is a great thing, but do you actually know what kind of time commitment is involved? And
Yes.
how we work and the things we do?
Yes.
Can you
I'm
tell me
looking
about
forward
some
to
of
it.
the things we do?
You have closed session meetings to decide issues. You have budget meetings coming up in the next couple months. You have meetings with hiring different staff. I'm looking forward to it, and I've done my research. I don't jump into anything unless I know 150% that I'm willing to commit to the time. And I've always found I don't stop moving. I wake up in the morning, have my breakfast, and I usually don't get home till way after midnight, whether it's the Playhouse, whether it's my condo board, whether it's different meetings that I go to, whether it's work. I mean, I have no problem pulling a 12-hour workday to get things done, but I make it work.
Mrs. Becker?
Someone once told me when I was thinking about being on the board that it was just 2 meetings a month.
Right.
So, about all your other commitments. Holly's right. This is very time-consuming, and when we're involved with several major initiatives, it's not unusual for us to be at 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings a week. That will vary depending upon what committees we're on and what's going on. How would your involvement with these other things are also time-consuming, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I completely respect everything you're doing, but there's only so many hours in the day for everybody. How, in your mind, have you already thought about what you may have to give up, what you're comfortable with?
Well, my board and my position on the condo board is coming to an end, so that's probably something I will definitely will step aside from. One good thing about my role at the Playhouse is it's a lot of administrative type of stuff. That doesn't mean necessarily meeting after meeting after meeting. I don't go to rehearsal. Actually, there's a full rehearsal going on right now for the show that opens tomorrow at the Playhouse. I don't have to be there because I know that there are other people that can handle those responsibilities. So I can set my Playhouse schedule based on what I need to be there. And given the fact that a lot of the stuff we do is late hours, I mean, I'm talking, I pulled an all-nighter there to get a set done. So I can work based on that schedule. And my other boards, I mean, the Charitable Foundation meets once a month on Friday mornings at the diner. And that's a couple hours here and there. So I know that I can make this work. And that same question was posed to me by a lot of people when I was running for council, how you can do it. Because it's that same, I mean, a lot of responsibility.
What if you have an obligation as chief of staff, you know, an evening what do you do then if it's conflict?
We have staff that works, and they can cover for things I need to go to. And if I have to be here, I'm here. Staff can cover for events that I have to do for the Assemblywoman. And most of the stuff is during the daytime. We had 3 different events today, and I was in Trenton and Edison and Highland Park, and they came here. So most of the stuff is during the day.
Thank you.
Mrs. Chu?
So one of the things I value about this community is the diversity of the community and the various cultures and backgrounds that people come from. So you alluded to this, you mentioned this in one of your prior responses, the different houses of worship and the diversity of the community. You know, what other specific ideas would you have on how to help parents and students further embrace diversity and pull community together?
I think I would rely a lot upon, your background. You're involved with the Chinese school, and I think that's a great asset within the community. And I would rely on that type of experience and how to do that outreach. I mean, I value the different diversity that we have, but I don't belong to any of the churches in town. I don't belong to any of the temples in town. But I think just being there, going to their events, talking to their leadership, and trying to just build that bridge. I mean, the first thing to do is when you want to enter a relationship is actually being there and hearing their concerns and hearing what problems they're having, whether if there are problems, or just hearing them out and see how we can kind of tie their concerns or their problems or their issues with something that we can work on as a community.
Question. Going back to your resume, we have your political experience, I guess, from about 2007 forward. I guess 10 years prior, what kinds of things were you doing before you got into the political world?
I actually came out of college and started working for Rush Holt, who was running for Congress for the first time. So I only left the last 3 employers. But I can go through my employment history. I worked for Rush Holt for Congress. After that, I worked for the actually Middlesex County Democrats. I mean, I'm putting it on the table, that's where I worked for. And then I worked for the Assembly Speaker Albio Series from 2002 to 2006 when he went off to Congress. And that's when I started at Human Services, which was not a political job. That's a policy-driven job, because as I've gotten older, my appreciation for public policy has gotten stronger. And that's why I went to get my master's in public policy, because I felt that I'm a policy wonk by design. I tend to read books on public policy. I just finished reading a book about Disney and the way they approach public policy in Central Florida. Yes, really dry topic, but it's my kind of thing. And I really don't get involved too much on the partisan side stuff. I'm much more looking at the policies than anything else.
You've indicated comfort in, I guess, checking that at the door when you come in here.
Yeah.
Make us comfortable that you can do that.
I can discuss, there's a lot of the good things that the governor has done. I may be on a different political side of him, but what he's done for drug rehab and for re-citizenship is definitely step in the right direction.
Yeah, I might not have asked it, but how would you make us comfortable that we know that when you come here, it's not about partisanship or anything like that, as few of us have pointed out?
Because it's in my DNA to work as a team, and I believe we're all Americans ultimately, and party differences are just that, differences. I think we can all work together. What I really do value about this board for years is the fact that there are people from different parts of the community all working together. And part of why I stopped, my interest in running for council ended soon after that election, is because I saw how partisan it got. And that kind of turned me off a little bit. So I decided I didn't want to pursue it until this opportunity presented itself. And now this is a much better direction, because I believe these 8 of you guys all work together as a team. And I want to be part of that team.
What else? I'm going to ask you the last question built in and ask you for some final remarks if you have them. Tell us what we're doing well, what we can improve on, and then you've got the floor for any other remarks you want to give.
Never give me a live mic. As I alluded to earlier, the Hammershall plan, the meeting I had at Hammershall, the strategic plan, is just a wonderful idea. And I think it's just setting a path for 5 years. I think, and I know he's sitting out in the audience, but hiring Dr. Valesky was a really good attribute to this town. I've seen him in action, and I'm really impressed by what he is doing for this board. Is really bringing new energy, bringing some new insight. I'm really excited for the way this board is going. And I think just getting back to what we can work together on is just communicating, building those bridges within the community, and being visible, being able to communicate in certain. I would love to serve on this board because I would like to be that ambassador and liaison to the different groups in town. And as a closing statement, I just want to thank each and one of you coming out. I appreciate Holly for coming out. My thoughts and prayers for you as you go through a tough time. I just thank you for this opportunity. I don't want to insult one board member, but I am a Mets fan. I hope Kurt doesn't hold it against me. Opening night is Sunday night. It's strange, opening night on a Sunday, but baseball is a religion for me. And
That's a New York team, right?
Yeah, the team that made it to the
Yes, it
World
is, Todd.
Series last year.
Oh, no, I only know the Phillies, so that's all right.
Do they still play baseball?
You really like the Phillies.
You would marry your
Oh, I
brother.
really like the Phillies.
All right.
But again, thank you very much, and I wish you good luck. And I
Thank
know
you.
Barbara had left, but I wish her the best of luck too, because I know it's a little nerve-wracking being up here, but I appreciate you guys giving me this time.
Thank you. No,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll go into recess. Next is the good of the cause, where members of the public are invited to express themselves on school-related matters of concern. Members are reminded that we have 5 minutes per folk, and if you have administrative or staff issues, please take them up with the appropriate administrator. Anyone wish to address the board this evening? Really? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public portion. May I have a motion to return to open session for the reasons earlier announced? Motion by Mrs. Shaw, second by Mrs. Becker. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We're back in closed session. End tape. Meeting is now called to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker? Mrs. Chu?
Here.
Dr. Cohen?
Here.
Mrs. Howard? Mrs. Lax?
Here.
Mr. Philipchak? Mrs. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Here, we have a quorum. Please rise to salute the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the board offices located at 760 Route 18, East Brunswick, New Jersey. Written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick on April 1st, 2016. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is the policy of the Board of Education that videotape meetings are not edited for any purpose. Individuals who speak at the board's public meetings should be aware of these videotaping rules. And good evening, everyone. We will start first, I'm going to move a little bit out of order, with some of our Board of Education agenda items. As folks know, we had a vacancy in the Board of Education when Kevin McAvoy had resigned back in January. The board went through a process of interviewing candidates, accepting applications, and this evening I'm going to ask for a nomination for our new member of the Board of Education. So may I have a nomination for member of the Board of Education, Mrs. Shaw?
I'd like to place in nomination Barbara Reese. We had the opportunity to interview Mrs. Reese the other evening. I find it always a very interesting situation when no more than, 10, 12 days ago, you had no idea that you'd be coming in here this evening to get sworn in. So it's a major change in your life. But I believe I speak for my colleagues on the board that you had an extremely impressive application, and that we were very pleased with the discussion that we had during your interview. So I wish you luck. I wish you perseverance and a lot of time to review and build your thoughts.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. Lax. Any other nominations? Seeing none, on the nomination of Barbara Reese as member of the Board of Education, will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes, nomination carries. Congratulations, Mrs. Reese. We are not finished, however, because now you must be sworn in, and our board secretary will now administer the oath of office to you.
Mrs. Reese, if you'll join me front center. Microphone, so it gets recorded. Mrs. Reese, if you please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Barbara Reese,
I, Barbara Reese,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey.
and that I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United
in
States
the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
And I do solemnly swear
And I do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of member
for the office of member
of a Board of Education,
of a Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all duties of that office
all duties of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mrs. Reese, and you can now take a seat at the dais. And next is the good of the cause, where members of the public are invited to express themselves on school-related matters of concern. Folks are invited. This is a televised board meeting, and please limit individual comments to 5 minutes. To protect the privacy of all students and staff, please raise your specific issues first with the administrative staff before bringing to the board. Anyone wish to speak to the board? I went through all of that, and there's nobody here to speak this evening. To speak. You're not going to speak, you're going to write. All right. Kids are allowed to also? Anybody have anything to say? All right, okay. Seeing none, I will close the public portion. We do have one amendment to the 2015-16 school calendar, so I have a motion for amendment to the calendar as is in the agenda packet.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Cohen, second by Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion? Do we need a roll call?
Can we explain to the public what the change is?
We want it to be a mystery?
Well, I don't know.
Dr. Valesky?
Absolutely. We have modified May 27th, which was originally a early dismissal day before Memorial Day. And now that will be a full day off. And then we will be going to a half day on June 3rd, Friday, June 3rd, for all staff, for all 10-month staff.
All right, thank you. So that means we can't have any more snow days?
We had the last snow this weekend officially.
Excellent. Thank you for that weather report and for the change. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, any committee or organization reports? Quiet night, okay? And go to the cause for the board. Just wait 1 second, yeah. All right. Dr. Cohen.
First, I'd like to congratulate and welcome Barbara to our board. I just did want to make one comment, and that is that I didn't want the public to believe that because we do a vote here in public and it's unanimous, that means there was no thought into that decision, and I don't want to take away while we do that in order to welcome you to the board in open arms. I don't want to take away from the multiple candidates that were out there that were also very well qualified, and as a way of encouraging more people to continue, we're very lucky and blessed that we had a lot of good applicants that were applying. And coming to our conclusion was at times difficult because we had two very qualified candidates. And at the end of the day, the consensus led us to the decision that we have right now. But I don't want the public to believe that because our votes on budgets or our votes on personnel or are always in public unanimous, that we don't take a lot of time in private to make those decisions that are often very difficult and maybe disappointing to other people. But at the end of the day, we believe we come up with the best solution and the best decision, and would not want to discourage anybody else from applying for these type of positions because, like I said, we're fortunate to be in the position where we have so many good and top quality people who are applying. So I would also like us to recognize that Adam Meary, who came out and put his name into the to the mix, and give him credit for doing what a lot of other people wouldn't have done. So kudos to him, and good luck to you. I think you'll do a great job.
Thank you very much.
Any other go to the cause? All right. Well, we're going to save it for Thursday. I promise Thursday will be a far more interesting meeting, except for having our new board member tonight, which was the highlight of the evening. Thursday will be our Wall of Honor ceremony, which we do every year. So you got to tune in for that. That will be a whole lot of fun. We do have a need for closed session, so may I have a motion for closed session for the reasons stated in the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Shaw, second by Mrs. Reese.
Yes, indeed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.